Hi, and welcome to episode number 25 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I'm Santacroce, and I'm your host on this show. Usually I have guests. I interview guests on this podcast, but today it's just me. So every 4 or so episode, it's just me, no guests, and I'm just kind of rambling on, share some ideas or thoughts on some things that I think is valuable to share with you. So today I'd like to talk about social selling on LinkedIn or using LinkedIn in general, and why I think LinkedIn is a great platform for introverted entrepreneurs. And this topic actually came up while talking or actually guest posting on a blog post for my friend Kat Rose, who, by the way, has her own podcast for creative introverts. So if you're a creative or just in general, as an introvert, look up Kat's podcast, The Creative Introvert. Anyway, so she asked me to comment on one of her blog posts where she was talking about which social platform is best for introverts. And for those of you who don't know, I'm an independent LinkedIn specialist on the side. So this is kind of my main business is where I help entrepreneurs, but also bigger companies, bigger Fortune 500 companies with LinkedIn and how to use it in for business. And so she asked me, well, what's your take on this? And obviously, I answered that LinkedIn, in my opinion, is the best platform for introverts in terms of the best social platform. And so I had to explain why. So I'm going to tell you in this podcast why I think LinkedIn is such a great fit for introverts, and then kind of also tell you about the social selling approach that I've developed and that I teach my clients in an interactive online class. So let's first kind of go back a bit, and maybe I can tell you shortly how I decided to specialize in LinkedIn. So I started my business while we were in California. That was between 2006 and 2010. We basically got a job transfer because my husband accepted a job in California. They actually gave us the option between California, so just an hour south of LA in Orange County, or Minneapolis. And being in Switzerland, I was kind of already tired of the winter, so it was kind of a no-brainer. I'm like, yeah, definitely California. So we moved our house and 2 kids, just had a baby. Diego was 6 months old. And so we moved everybody to California. And after about a year at home, I decided, well, I need to, do something. I'm going to go stir crazy here at home. Even the moms clubs didn't really do it for me. So I decided to launch a business. And back then, what I launched was a virtual assistant business. So I decided, well, I'm going to help entrepreneurs and business owners with admin stuff. And I also, I'm fluent in about 4 languages, my mother tongue being German. I'm fluent in French. I know Spanish and Italian. So I decided, okay, I can help them with translations and admin assistance and so forth. But being in that kind of environment where social media really just boomed and maybe even started, I quickly realized that I can create buzz for my own business on social media. And so I was like, well, if I can do that for my own business, starting from scratch with 0 budget, that means I can do the same thing for other entrepreneurs who are on a low budget, for marketing. And so I can help them with marketing rather than just administrative stuff. And so my business quickly kind of transformed. And when we got back to Switzerland in 2010, I had the idea that I was going to offer strategy sessions, social media strategy, put all these business strategies together for people. But when we arrived in Switzerland, so this is my home base, but after having been 4 years in California, I was kind of hit in shock that during those 4 years, nothing really changed in Switzerland, and social media was still like, yeah, people maybe had a Facebook account in 2010, but nobody really used it for business yet. So, in California, every restaurant, every barbershop, everybody was on social media. In Switzerland, like I said, people were maybe on Facebook for their personal lives, but other than that, there was nothing. And so I had to quickly kind of turn around again and say, okay, nobody wants my strategies, because they're like, they don't even know what it is, how to use Facebook, how to use LinkedIn. And so I had to kind of transform everything and say, okay, well, I'm going to help you understand it first. And so that's when I really went into the training. And yeah, from strategies and setting up accounts and things like that, I turned everything around and said, okay, let me help you understand what social media is for and what it can do for your business. So that was one big learning lesson, I guess, back then, because, you build a business on kind of the information from one part of the world. And then I had to realize that, well, in Europe, or especially in Switzerland, nothing was like that. And I had to completely shift and pivot my whole business around. So anyway, that brings me now finally to the part where LinkedIn comes in, because the one thing that I also realized is that the one platform that business people over here were interested in was LinkedIn. And I was kind of happy to find out about that, because from a personal experience, I also felt that LinkedIn was the platform where I felt the most comfortable. I never did feel comfortable on Facebook, for example. And it never dawned on me that, well, maybe that has to do with my introversion. Only when Kat just recently asked me that, I'm like, how come that, never occurred to me before? That obviously I don't like being on Facebook and sharing about my personal, things and family pictures and all of that. I'm an introvert. I don't talk all the time about myself. And so, yeah, that I just recently realized that. Anyway, so the Swiss mentality is what I noticed in 2010 is, I wouldn't say everybody's introverted here. That's not true, but it's very much also kind of probably a bit less outgoing, less social, and much more let's distinguish between business and personal. And so that's what I noticed in 2010, that there's much more interest in understanding LinkedIn for business than there was in understanding Facebook for business. Clearly, everybody thought here that Facebook, that's just for your personal life. And so that's how I got started and kind of slowly, specialized in LinkedIn and now only focusing on helping entrepreneurs and businesses with LinkedIn. So that's the story. Now let me really dig deeper in terms of, why do I think LinkedIn is so good for introverts? Well, I already told you one reason is that you don't have to share anything personal on LinkedIn. You have to make your profile sound human and personable, but you are not going to share your latest vacations or your new car or any kind of personal, kind of successes. That's what people usually share on Facebook, right? You're not going to share any of that on LinkedIn. People are not interested in your personal life. Maybe they are interested in your personal life once they actually talk to you, but you're not there to kind of show off your personal successes. And that's what Facebook always felt like to me. It's like, yeah, I bought a new pair of shoes, but I don't really want to share it with everybody. So yeah, there's definitely less of the personal sharing. It's a professional network. And so it's expected that you talk about your expertise in your business. And so there's less of that small talk. Because Facebook to me always feels like small talk. And I don't mind reading about, the personal successes or the, family outings and all of that of my friends, it just would never occur to me to share all of that with my friends on Facebook. Never mind on LinkedIn, but I don't even do it on Facebook, even though sometimes I think I should be more active on Facebook. But when I live something with my family, I just want to be there. I don't want to always take out my phone and create a video and share it and all of that. So that's why I prefer LinkedIn, because when I'm in a business mindset, I'll be on LinkedIn and I'll share about the business stuff. So it's much more straightforward, it feels to me, because I don't have to pretend to be this interesting person, which really I'm not. And I can be just me, myself. And yes, I'm here for business and everybody knows it. Where on Facebook, it always feels like you have to make yourself more interesting so that people think that you're interesting, so that in the end, they will do business with you. So it feels kind of like, oh, this long-winded thing that, I don't know, it's just not me. So it's more straightforward on LinkedIn. People know that you're there for business. The sales cycle is also much shorter because of that. So you don't have to do all this sharing around personal interests and things like that, because people, like I said before, they just know that you're here for business, that you want to sell something. And then if they're interested and when they're interested, they're going to come to you. And that's the other thing I like on LinkedIn, is that I can sell without selling. And what I mean by that is that I can share my content and I can share my expertise, be it on my blog, and then I share that on LinkedIn, or be it on the LinkedIn Pulse feature, where I can, create and publish long length articles. And by just sharing my expertise, I create an interest for what it is I do, and that gets shared on LinkedIn. Where on Facebook, again, there's this extra step. I first need to share something about my family or something that I did on the weekend so that people are interested, and then maybe they'll look at my blogs, and then maybe they'll, come to my website. Where on LinkedIn, it's just the sales cycle is so much shorter. And I think there's definitely much less selling, because I don't have to sell myself. People usually come to me on LinkedIn and they've already read my content. They've already read my LinkedIn profile. And obviously that's what I teach my clients, is how to create a cutting edge sales tool out of your LinkedIn profile. So you don't have to do the selling anymore. And so when they contact me, those clients who've already done all of their research, they read my content. Well, they actually don't want a sales pitch. They're like, I know what you do. I have seen your service pages. I want this and this package. When can we start? And I mean, that's a dream for an introvert, right? I don't have to go out there and mention my price and then, being really shy about what it is I, charge and all of that. They're like, yeah, no, don't worry. I've seen it. I read your content, and when can we start? So that's why I like LinkedIn, because it takes so much pressure of me trying to sell myself. And obviously I'm very active, and people could consider that selling myself, but I don't have to sell myself. It's my content, my expertise that's doing the selling. And I feel good about that, because I'm sharing my knowledge. And if people want more, that's when they come to me. So, those are the reasons why I think LinkedIn is such a great place for introverts. And if you've listened to this, maybe by now you're like, well, I never considered actually LinkedIn to be a place for entrepreneurs. I thought LinkedIn was a place where people could go to find a job. And that's, if you think that, you're not the only one who thinks like that, but a lot of things have changed on LinkedIn in the last, let's say 5 years. And LinkedIn is now really a marketplace for job seekers, for recruiters, of course, but also for entrepreneurs, any kind of decision makers in bigger companies. So It's a great place to get your expertise to be seen, to get contacted, to build relationships with your prospects. And that's really what I do in my social selling class is explain the 4 steps of social selling, which, of course, the first step is the profile. So that's where you need to really build a profile that's cutting edge, that talks about what it is you do, talks about your expertise, talks to the person. So the profile shouldn't sound like a CV or a resume, because you're not looking for a job, you're looking for clients. And so it needs to really sound like a sales letter, really. And so that's the first step. And then the second step is to grow your network, because if you're just starting out on LinkedIn, well, you're going to have a small visibility, and you obviously want a big visibility so that more prospects or clients see you and want to work with you. So that's the second step, is how to grow your network. And I work with my clients on different strategies on how to strategically basically build the network, but with people that, might be interested in their services. The third step is to add value. So that's where the content sharing comes in, where you are basically sharing your expertise. And that's the principle of inbound marketing. You're sharing your expertise, you're educating, you're explaining, and then people who read that, who want to get more, will come to you, and they will have done their research already. They will have looked at your LinkedIn profile, and they'll say, when can we start? How can I sign up? So that's the third step of social selling, is adding value. And the fourth step is the prospecting part. So, how do you add new prospects? How do you identify them? How do you find them on LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn is a great database, really, of people, but also of companies. So how do you find those people? And then how do you engage with them? How do you build a relationship with them? Always based on the principle that we want to give before we get. So this is not a place where you're going to go sell on LinkedIn, sending out sales messages on LinkedIn, where you just go in and say, hey, I'm offering this and this service. Are you interested? That just doesn't work. It doesn't work on LinkedIn, doesn't work on Facebook, it doesn't work anywhere. So how do you build those relationships? And in order to get that, that feedback saying, hey, I liked what I saw on your LinkedIn profile. I saw your content. Where can I sign up? So anyway, I thought I'd kind of share why I decided to specialize in LinkedIn, why it makes sense to me as an introvert to be active on LinkedIn, and why I think it would make sense to you as well. If you're obviously you're an introvert, I'd assume, if you're listening to this podcast, but if you're in the service area, so if you're offering services to other entrepreneurs or to other, decision makers, or to anybody basically who is either employed or who runs their own business, because these are the kind of people that you can find on LinkedIn. And so if that's your client or if that's your prospect, then I think it makes sense for you to be active on LinkedIn as well, and kind of improve your LinkedIn profile, and then kind of start to grow your network and expertise. And why not use the LinkedIn Publisher tool to share your content and really kind of grow that visibility on LinkedIn. So anyway, if you find this interesting and intriguing, maybe why don't you go over to my website, Simplicity Small Biz, where you can also find my recipe for LinkedIn success. There, these are kind of steps that I think are worth doing on LinkedIn. There's also some small bite-sized action steps to improve your LinkedIn profile. So go over to my internet site, Simplicity Small Biz, and you'll find a free resource that you can download there. as well. So I hope you found this interesting. If you're interested in selling for introverts, I also recommend you listen again, maybe if you haven't yet, the episode number 9 with Alan Mayer, who is actually a specialist for selling for introverts. So that's episode 9, sarahsantacroce.com/episode 9 with Alan Mayer on selling for introverts. And that's it for this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. You'll find the full show notes at sarahsantacroce.com/episode 25. And also, if you don't have it yet, get your free 4-step guide on how to say no to grow. You'll find that also on that same page, sarahsantacroce.com/episode 25. And if you're looking for further resources to run your online business, have a look at my collection of tools I use in my business at sarahsantacroce.com/tools. And if you need help implementing, I'd love to co-create with you, hold your hand, and walk you from a state of overwhelm and frustration to serenity, clarity, and success on your terms. All the details can be found at sarahsantacroce.com/coaching. And that's it. I'll talk to you again in 2 weeks. I know it seems long, but time flies. So talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.